So I am up in Maine. Bill and I both have been able to come and visit my sister and brother-in-law. It has been beautiful up here. We're just up for a visit. And so I'm going to be working on a quilting project here that my sister's been helping me to find out about. When we were in San Diego, one of the things that we won through Thrive Life was this iPad. And it's a basic Apple iPad. And man, I want to make sure it's protected. It's very slick. It slides off of things. So I have some fabric here, and Dana had a pattern that she's used before, and I'm going to make a cover for this iPad, a padded cover for it, and take you along and kind of make a tutorial out of it, but just show what we're working on to make a cover for this. And I'm excited. So it's always fun to be here working on these projects with her. So I know people have been asking for more quilting, so we're going to do a quilting project today.
Tinyhouse Prepper.
Okay, I have found some fabric that I think is going to be really pretty. I can't make it too flowery because both Bill and I are going to use the cover. So I think I found something that's going to work.
He did nix one of her selections. So.
Well, it was covered in roses. I guess I can't really blame him.
It's so pretty.
I know, but I just can't see him walking around with a cover on an iPad covered in roses.
I can.
Yeah, Our film man is back there just saying, okay, so. Yeah, doing that kind of thing, right? I love it. I want to introduce my sister Dana. A lot of you have already met her, but I do want to introduce her. This is her home, and she's like my quilting guru. And and if you haven't had a chance, go back and look at some of the quilting videos where I showed you the little setup she has for me living in a really tiny place. It's like a tiny house quilting setup, and it's just the best thing. But since I'm up here, it's fun to do it here with her. Okay, so we have our pattern now brought up on another iPad, and I have our iPad here. So one of the first things that you want to do with this is we're going to need to measure. And when we watch the tutorial, which by the way I want to give definite credit, is Shabby Fabrics. It's a Shabby Fabrics tutorial, and we're going to do kind of our own little, I'm making it myself now tutorial. Anyway, so one of the first things I'm going to do is measure my own iPad here. And then we're going to be making basically a front piece that's 2 inches bigger height and width, 2 inches wider, 2 inches higher. A back piece is 2 inches higher, 2 inches wider. 2 lining pieces that are going to be 1 inch higher and 1 inch wider. And then a little piece for the pocket, which I don't see on there right now, but we'll get to that. So
I'm sure it's the next page.
Yep, the next page. The pocket then is going to be well, it depends on the device. I'm going to kind of measure for that.
Yeah.
Because it can just be enough for the seam allowances. We'll be able to measure
This
for
is
that.
the basic, it's going to basically be like a little loopy at the top for a button. It's got a pocket. It's padded.
Yeah, it's padded,
So,
and the device will just slide down in
Right.
there, and it really protects it.
and in this pocket, I keep my
Earbuds
my
and
earbuds and my the wipes for the screen. So anyway,
nifty idea. Okay, so let's start out by just measuring, and we'll get this written down. So I'll just go ahead and use this since it's right here. Right. In fact, it doesn't hurt to err on the side of caution.
yeah, I think I would add another.
Yeah, and we were also talking about if I get a little protective, the kind of cover that'll actually close over it.
Yeah.
Eventually, I don't want to make it so tight that you can't put that on.
Right.
So what would you say? Maybe just add another 1/4 inch.
Maybe add a 1/2 inch for each.
Yeah, just add a half, because this is sort of a little fatter than exactly a
It's
half.
kind of, you got some thickness going here too.
Right.
So
So
just
how?
to be sure.
Let's just make it 12 by 9 instead of 11.5 by 8.5. I'm going to make it 12.
I would make it 12 and 3/4. Because you've got, oh, this is 1.5. What, okay, 6.5. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. Well, no, I'd rather you double checked and make sure that there's no chance on, you measure twice, cut once. That's true if you're a carpenter or someone sewing.
Well, and I have to figure 3 times, check twice, and then cut. And even then I've made mistakes, so.
So that should give us our basic
Right.
idea. Okay, good. Now we can go then, now that we have the dimensions of my iPad, we can go ahead and get our fabrics cut and put together. This is so neat, and it's got like greens and purples and blues and stuff in it. Being here at my sister's is a wealth of fabrics, and she's very generous. If she'd ever want, I could show you. She is just a wonderful person
I'm
to
a
get.
fabric order.
But it's this beautiful stuff, and she makes good use of it. So this blue, to me, just pulls in that beautifully.
And I would probably use that as the lining anyway. In any
Yeah.
case,
Yeah,
use that for lining.
I think that this is going to make my lining, and it'll be consistent. This is going to be our front and back. This will be the lining. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to piece together some of the batting, just because these are leftovers from quilts. And rather than getting out my big roll of batting and cutting off enough for this, Little pieces.
I'm going to piece this together to use it for the batting for this. And I just wanted to show off this one little cool. I've got a little cool foot here, and what it is you can use it for stitch in the ditch, and those that know quilting know what that means. It's, you know, quilting if you want to stitch along the seams. And for something like this, it makes it really handy because I can just snap it right on and get myself a zigzag stitch. Let me see, I think it's...
And by the way, my sister actually repairs sewing machines. She's really good with this.
Yeah, so I put it on a zigzag. Make sure the zigzag's kind of wide. So I'm going to add some width to the zigzag. And then when I put this in here, I actually put 1/2 on one side of that guide and 1/2 on the other side. And so when I start, this is such a cool machine.
It is a cool machine. I can. It guides it right along that little ridge.
It's guiding right along the little ridge. Plus, this machine, just at the beginning, it gave me a little stabilizer stitch where it stitched like 3 or 4 times in the same place so it wouldn't rip out.
So you don't have to do the back and forth.
So I don't have to do any back and forth. And then every time I stop, you'll notice that it stops in the fabric.
Which is by far preferable to have the needle down in the fabric.
Right. So anytime you stop, it's really handy, you know, if you're going to continue on that stitch, to have the needle stop in the down position, because then you can arrange and move things around without actually messing up your stitch. And in the meantime, this is just simply stitched together, and nothing of that's going to show in the cover. It's just stitched together.
It's just very smooth. And
I'm really thrilled with this particular foot. I think it's just fantastic. There's also other stitch in the ditch feet that just have a single hole back here, so you can do zigzag with them. And those are basically to keep you sewing right exactly in that ditch. I find this one works just as well for that. Plus, it's got the added feature of being able to do what I'm doing now. So anyway, that's enough of this. I'll finish doing this, and then we'll be back with you.
that's Millie. My sister has 2 greyhounds. She's a sweetie. That's so cute. Okay. All right. One of the first things you always want to do is press your fabric. And that way when you cut, you know that it's going to be accurate, and just keeping it pressed, pressing your seams, all of that makes such a difference. And so we'll be getting all this fabric pressed, and then we'll be cutting. So I did just realize as we looked at it that the little piece I was going to use for the pocket wasn't big enough. So I'm going to make the pocket out of the lining fabric, and it'll be great. Okay, it looks beautiful. So we're going to be cutting the batting pieces, and this has been measured up now 12 inches. And I'm going to line this up really carefully along here and put the pressure on here just to keep it. Oops, that happens. Get the scissors. That happens. Okay. Now we know this is 12, but we want to make sure that this is lined up evenly.
And so you measure 9 this way.
Yeah.
And so you get it to where you can see the 9 line and follow that up and then cut it there.
Yep, and that should be a nice rectangle There we go, lined it up here. Nice and neat. Okay, so we've,
And I just did the other one, so.
yeah, yep. So we've got 2 here, and this seaming is like just flawless. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So we have our 2 batting pieces all ready to go. All right, we're gonna go ahead and go for the 9-inch width that we need. This is my front and back of my little case. So I'm doing the 9 inches this way, and then I'll easily have my double 12 inches this way. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this cut. And you notice we're very carefully trying to leave a nice square usable piece of this fabric. We were both talking about that. Our mom taught us to do that.
Yeah. She was never one to waste anything. So.
No.
She'd buy a dress pattern and actually buy less fabric because she knew she could get by with it.
And you always make sure everything's really, truly square.
Now, well, square, you know, it's fabric. It's going to give a little bit.
But I try to at least start out as precise as I can.
Yes, exactly.
So here is my 12-inch mark, right here, and I will cut my 12-inch piece. Okay, and then I'll be cutting another one just like it.
Okay.
All right, so we have 11 going this way and 8 going this way.
And no, yeah, 8 for sure. Okay, that's not, yeah, 9 minus 1 is 8, last I checked.
Right, we don't like to go right to the edges here because then you can't see the numbers. So you just do a little math. Okay, there is a liner piece, and we'll just cut one more of those.
Did you want to cut the pocket next?
Oh, yeah, okay, let's cut the pocket out of that little scrap. Try to make good use of the fabric that we have. So this is the liner. Okay, now I'm going to be actually drawing marks on the right side of the front and the back of my case here to show where to put a really nice, just a grid quilting pattern on. And so the first thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to explain the steps here just very quickly. First thing I'll be doing is folding this in half so I can find the center both directions, so that when I start putting in my grid lines for the quilting, I will be just off of center, which is going to, for one thing, make it look nice, and for another, we're going to have a button and a little elastic here, and we don't want that to be right on the seam. So I will press this in half. I'll come and do that here. I'm at the iron. And this is just easy to go ahead and just press it right in half. Now I'll be doing this with both pieces, but I'll demonstrate one of them because it's just the same thing twice. The front and the back. We'll go ahead and I'm going to put a seam in this way. The pen that my sister has is so cool that I'm going to mark these with. The marking will disappear when it gets pressed. So I'm going
Make
to
sure you only press here and here. If you press in the middle, you're going to get rid of your other line.
right. Oh no, I'm not going to press out my other line.
Okay.
But I'm going to go ahead and put this one in because once I put some lines on this, I don't want to do any more pressing until I'm done with my sewing of the quilting, or else I will be losing the markings that I carefully put in. So this is just formed a cross on here, and I haven't lost either one of them. Okay, so now when I come back,
And it's the pen that irons out. I interrupted her and she didn't get to finish that sentence. So.
oh yeah, I'm sorry, that's right. Anyway, this pen, when I get the quilting done and I press the piece, the markings will disappear when you iron. And so that's going to be fun. That'll be kind of cool. So now I have my center clearly marked. And I'm going to line this up really carefully where I can see it here. And then I'll take the ruler and I'll come out 3/4 of an inch on either side of the center line.
What you can do is put this on a 3/4 line.
Oh, that's cool.
And then you draw it.
Thank you. Yes, see, that's why I have it. That's why I have an expert. Put this way so that I have a measurement of 3/4 on both ends. Now I'll put a nice straight line on here.
And sometimes you have to kind of run it a couple times so that you
Yeah,
can see
kind
it.
of. Yeah. And then bring it down here.
It'll be easier on the other side.
Okay, now that's 3/4 of an inch now away from the center, and then I will put it at 3/4.
Be careful that this is a 1/2 inch. That thing on the other side.
Oh, you gotta flip it,
Yeah,
sure.
So flip it, because I've got a 3.5-inch ruler here, and it's confusing.
Now that's the 3/4 right there.
Yes.
Okay. This is just guiding me for my quilting. Sure makes that easy.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to come out 1.5 inches. I'm going to do one more line, and then you'll obviously understand how to finish it. So 1.5 inches. And I'm going to put my 1.5 inch markings on here, and the outside is going to be trimmed, so I'm not going to have to fuss too much with doing some kind of a very thing on the far edge. But see, now I've got these really nice lines on here.
And you'll have lines the other way.
And I will do the same thing this way, where I go on either side 3/4 inch, and then that leaves a nice grid, and then I will do that. So let me get that done, and I'll show that to you. Okay? Now all of the grid work has been drawn on now with that special pin, and we didn't necessarily do the lines that were clear out to here. I might end up cutting those off when I'm trimming it, cutting off my quilting. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to place this on my batting right side up, because I'm going to actually quilt the fabric right onto the batting. That is the best way to do that. And so just going to line these up, and then it'll be a very good idea, there we go, to pin this, and then I can just do the quilting. So I'm going to pin this on, keep it all very straight and stable as much as I can, and I'll show you when I begin to do some of the sewing of the quilting. And we'll have both pieces ready, and I can just show that to you. These, this is neat. My sister, how did you get this?
We made it in a class.
She made this one of the quilting classes. This is weighted with the pins in it, and it's got a thing on the back that kind of grips, and it can be tucked in here, and then you bring out your pins. It's sandy. It's all full of heavy. You put it right here.
Actually, walnut shells.
Oh, they're walnut shells?
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
And then you can just set it there, and this is for all your little threads. That's so cool. So, I'll get this all pinned, and then I'll show you when I start doing the actual quilting. And so both the front and back will be done that way. Okay, now I have gone ahead and put one seam in, but I'm going to go ahead and show you as I continue to do a little bit more of this quilting. I want you to notice here that this thread is beautiful. My sister Dana gave this to me to use for my top here, and it's variegated, and it's got all different colors that blend in with what I'm doing. I think that's really, really neat. It makes a very pretty change in the thread. Now, I'm not going to have to backstitch on this when I start, because we're going to be actually trimming a section of this off. But of course, normally you want to backstitch when you're quilting so that you are keeping it real sturdy and it's not going to pull out very easily. So this is so easy. I've got it all in place here, and I'm going to go ahead and just follow the lines. Couldn't be easier. There we go. Yep. Oh, that's going to be really, really pretty. And I will finish the rest of all the cross hatching here. If you notice, I hope the light's good. Notice how the color on the quilting is changing as I go along. Isn't that going to be neat? Love it. Okay, I will finish all the quilting and I'll be back. Now all of our quilting is done, and I'm going to be ironing this to get rid of all the lines, but I'm going to go ahead and do something else first. So I will be getting to the ironing. What we want to do now is we want to trim these so that they are going to match with the lining pieces that we have here. So I will be putting this on here, and there's going to be a little bit of an edge all the way around. I get on there as straight as I can. I'm going to pin this, and then I'll take my rotary, Dana's rotary cutter, and I'm going to be trimming this. It's very important when you cut this time, because this has been measured to make sure it fits my iPad, when we cut this, we want to be very careful not to cut the lining, but only to cut the outside portion that has been quilted with the batting. So that will be the next thing that we'll be doing. So you just want to be sure. We're going to set a ruler on it, cut very carefully to make sure that it's only going to be the outside piece that we're going to cut. So I just make a nice cut through here to make sure that these are the same size. Oops, I got to get that cut a little bit more. That happens sometimes. Don't want to cut my dark blue lining. Let me get this a little better here. There we go. Now, see, that'll be the same size now, and I'll turn this. And I'm just going to go along and trim all of these off. That's why we weren't real worried about doing a quilting quilting seam right close to the edge, because I knew we were going to need to trim this. Do not cut the blue, which I just accidentally did a little tiny bit. Oh boy. Anyway, don't do that. It slipped. There we go. I got to put a little more pressure at my beginning points here. This is going to be fine. Okay. There's a little bit of flexibility available when you're quilting, but I do want to be careful to not make my blue part too small, because that's what I want to make sure I can fit my iPad into. All right. You know what I think is happening is I don't really need these pins anymore on this side. I'm going to leave them over there. I think I skidded on the pins. There we go. That's better. Okay, well, I will finish trimming this and I'll be back. I'm going to go ahead and start the pocket, and this is a linen type of fabric, so I am going to be very careful to make sure that I have a seam here that is not going to fray. So the first thing I'm doing, and it's a little hard because it's a solid piece to see this, but I folded it over a 1/4 inch, and I'm going to iron my 1/4 inch down very nicely here, nice and straight. That wasn't straight. There we go. I want to keep it as straight as I can. There we go. My goodness. That would have been a weird looking pocket. Alrighty. Now, I'm going to fold it again, because for any fabric you want to make sure you don't have a raw edge that'll fray, but particularly for this, because it tends to fray a little more easily. I love the fabric. It's got a wonderful texture, but I want to make sure to really protect it from fraying. So I've got a really nice extra. There we go. And once that's sewn on the sides, it's going to be secure and sturdy. That'll be a pocket. Now, what I'm going to do now is, with the quilted pieces that we have here, by the way, we sort of extended our straight stitch to like 3.5-ish, which makes a really nice quilting stitch. It's more easy to see. It makes really nice looking stitches. Now, as I iron this, all of that ink is going to disappear. It's pretty cool. Look at that. Now all you can see is all that lovely stitching. That is cool. I've never done that before.
There you go.
That's neat. You know what? I'll show you the other one too, because it's just cool. I'll grab it real quick here.
You know, if somebody doesn't have the erasable, I mean like the ironable stuff, you can always put that grid work on the batting part, and it will be covered up anyway. So you can draw on it with just anything, because it's not going to show.
That's an excellent idea. You could actually put all of your grid on the batting with whatever you wanted to use.
Right.
That would work, and that's not going to show.
Right.
Very good point. Cool.
Just now thought of it.
Good job. Okay. I have my pocket here that I have pressed. Made the press seam here. Now I'm going to go ahead, keeping my variegated thread on top for prettiness, I'm going to go ahead and make a seam across here to secure this. All right. Now this I am going to stitch back and forth just a little bit. Okay, I'm just going to go right along here, stitch that down as straight as I can so that it makes it really pretty on the outside. Okay. Using that variegated thread, it's really pretty there. All right, now, if you look here, there's a very lovely seam across there that just changes the color of the thread a little bit as it goes along. Okay. I'm going to baste my pocket on here on the front in just a moment, but one thing I want to do first, if we look at the finished one, I'll have this here. We want to notice that we want our elastic to be behind the front. It's going to come from the back piece to the front to loop over the button. And so I'm going to go ahead and mark my back piece so that I don't accidentally sew my elastic on the wrong part once I'm starting to put it all together. So right in the center here of the back upper section, I'm just going to put a little X. And that's just going to show me that's where I want to put my elastic later on. Okay, and now I will just be placing my pocket on and basting it on so that I'll have the pocket for the front. I have now adjusted the machine right here so that I'll have 5 instead of like the 3.5 I was using for the quilting. And then what are we going to go down to for our actual seams?
Just like right at 2.
Yeah, we're going to go down to right at 2 for our structural seams. But this is a base to hold this on until I can fit all the parts together. And so I'll get this going here. You want to go really close to the edge so that there's no chance that you're going to end up, having this show up when you're trying to put the whole thing together. So let's just base this thing on so that it'll stay in place when I'm putting it all together. Now when I come down to this bottom, I'm going to stop, make sure that my needle is in, because this machine isn't as fancy as her other one over there, so I have to make sure I do that. Her machine over there will do that automatically, which I kind of think is really seriously cool. I'm going to try working with her machine, I think, pretty soon here. Okay. Okay, well, I will be continuing to baste this on. Now I'm going to take right sides together. This is the front, because that's where I put the pocket, and this is the back. And yeah, so right sides together, making sure that I have my place for my elastic at the top. And I'm going to run a 1/4 inch seam. Get these lined up here. There we go. From the top here to here and to here, but not the actual top yet. So that is what I'll be doing now. I'll go ahead and get this started. Now, we're going to be switching our seam size, our stitch size, which is just slightly over 2. Okay, a little bit over 2. And we have switched out our thread now, because there's no reason to use that heavier variegated thread on any place that isn't going to show. So all the rest of my sewing is going to show the variegation, but we don't need that now. So I'm just going to start stitching at a 1/4 inch all the way around to make the first pocket here. Okay, here we go. And I'm going to stop a 1/4 inch from the bottom. Beautiful. Keep my needle in. And then I'm going to go a little farther. Yeah. I'm going to make sure I'm like right at a 1/4 inch. A little bit more, just a couple of stitches. Good, that looks good. Bring my needle down. That's it. Hold it in place. Okay, I'll be continuing all the way around and I'll show you when I get it all done. Right here, I was sliding off just a little bit. And Dana put on a 1/4-inch foot, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Anyway, you just can run right along the edge of the foot, and boy, is that easier. So now this is all done, forming the pocket. I am gonna turn this right side out because I wanna get, double check and make sure that the iPad is going to fit in here without any problems at all before I do anything else. So we'll get this all turned out. Oh, you can just feel the cushiness of it. And by the way, I'll be trimming, I'll show you. I'm just testing it for size right now. I don't want to do any trimming until I know what I'm doing here with size. So this feels cushy and it's going to be great. And it's not even lined yet. So here we go. Now, look at that. It just pops right in there. That is very cool.
And it has a little bit of give so that you'll have time, space for your lining and space for possible cover.
Yeah, we left a little bit of give there on purpose because I might at some point put like a, little covers you can put under that you can flip around for a cover, and I'd like to put one of those on, and I still want it to be able to slip into the pocket. So that is great. Cool. Now I'm going to flip this back out again because one of the things that we're going to need to do is on the outside here and on the lining, you're going to need to trim the corner just a little. I'll probably just do it right here with a little cutter and use scissors. But all I'm doing, I'll show you after I get it done, I'm just trimming off the corner. I'm not going down into the stitching at all, but just trimming the corner a little bit so that it will be able to make a better square corner once the lining's in there. Okay, now it's going to be the same thing, just taking the lining and sewing all the way around just like we just did with the outside. I'm going to line these up really nicely, and I'm sure you can figure out how I'll do that, and I'll be back and show it to you when I'm done. Okay, this is all done now, and my place for my elastic is marked right here. So, one of the things I'm going to do very quickly is for this one, make sure, can't imagine there's any problem, but I'm going to make sure that my iPad will slide happily into here. Yep, be no problem. This will be the lining. This gives me a little bit of room if I want to put one of those little protector things with the cover on. No problem. So, now what you do is this needs to be turned right side out. And I'll very gently just kind of push these little corners out. A lot of times people would be pressing these seams. That is often a very good idea. I don't find that on this one with the fabric I'm using that it's going to be necessary to press these seams. But just be aware that that is something that is often done. Okay, now I have my right side out lining. Now, this is going to seem weird, but it actually works. I'm going to take this and I'm going to slip it inside, right sides together, not in the pocket, right sides together, and slip it inside of the outside pieces. And then I'm going to be very careful to tuck this down in the corners so that I'm lining it up really well. Yep, that went down into that corner very nicely. I'm going to bring this over, and this part, yep, goes down in very nicely. Now this is inside there. Now, what I want to do then is take my areas where I've got the seams here, and I'm going to line them up very carefully along the seams and along the top. Go ahead and pin that so that those are going to be lined up very nicely. There's my seam here, and I'll be pinning this seam together. Okay, I can see this better without my glasses. There we go. In this case, that's it. I want them to line up. I can feel them lining up here at the top and the seams themselves. All right. Now, I'm going to have to keep an opening when I stitch this because, of course, you have to flip it back inside out again, right side out. And so on the side that doesn't have the elastic, that's not marked, I'm going to go ahead and give myself, I think, a good 4 inches. This is not going to be a problem to finish because you'll see that we're going to be top stitching. That won't be a problem. I need to give myself a nice big gap for flipping this thing back out again. You don't want something too small. It'll drive me nuts. And then over here, I'll be stitching this, and I'm going to want to stitch in my elastic when I do this seam. So I'm going to just give myself some pins here. Hold it really nice and stable. This I be very careful with the pins. This is nice. I can tell it's going to fit in here quite nicely. Beautiful. Okay. All right. That is all set to go now. Now, this is the button that we've chosen that's going to be used with the elastic loop. I think it's going to work real well. It's kind of an old, neat button. I have a loop of elastic here, and let me show you what I've done. I experimented with it for a second before I was going to start filming again. All right, what we have here is a loop. I am putting the sides together. You don't have to be super concerned about the length, although this is a very good length. It's right around 5 inches, which is going to be great with that big button. I turn this so you can see it a little bit better. Right in here, I have the opening for the sides that are right sides together. I actually slip the loop in there so that I've got the 2 ends sticking out. I'll push that down in there, and if you look, I'm going to end up with the ends sticking out right where I have my X. And if I need to adjust I got to watch out for these so that as I'm sewing, I'll sew them in. After I get this done, if I need to adjust my elastic, how it buttons the button anymore, so that it'll be kind of snug enough to hold the container closed, but not too tight, that can be done by adjusting the button. So it'll be no problem. So there we are. And I'm just going to kind of try to pin this the best I can here and just keep an eye out for them so that I can be sure I sew these in when I get there. Okay, now what I'm actually going to do is start at the beginning of my gap here. Bring this in, and I'm going to go ahead and remove this pin because now I know where I want to start. Making sure I'm keeping both pieces stitching. And I'm going to work my way around till I get to the other gap. Starting with my, absolutely with my needle down. And I'm going to give this some back stitching. It's got to be strong. Here we go. Now, before I get to these seams being intersected here, I'm going to smooth out my fabric. There we go. Try to work with a smooth surface here and get to where I know I can move that pin and I'll still have control. And there we are. Pin goes. I keep going here all the way around. There we are. Get the pin out. Okay, I'm coming up on my elastic, so I'm going to watch out for it. I got both little pieces right here, so when I get to that, I'm going to be stitching over them very, very carefully. I'm going to go ahead and get that pin out because I've got the elastic under control here. I didn't lose it. And I'm going to tuck those right there. I'm going to make sure, yes, I am still at my mark. So now when I go over this, I should have it under control. Here we go. Now, when I get to here, I'm going to stitch over these several times. They take pressure from the buttoning, so I'm going to stitch back and forth over these a few times. back. I'm just reinforcing that elastic a little bit. There we go. Okay. All right, bring it back around a little bit more. Flatten this out. Maintaining control as I go around. The elastic looks like it went into place very nicely. Okay. Alrighty, I'm going to go over this intersection of the seams. Remember, smooth everybody out. Ah, there we go. Now I've got a nice straight shot. I'm going to move this. Keep going along here. Oops, I'm not going to be in a big hurry here. I want to make sure I do this part really accurately. Now, I'm back up to my next pin. I'm going to go there, back it up, forward, and that's it. There we go. Now, that went very well. And I'm stitched, I caught everything on both sides. I caught my elastic very nicely. I'm pleased. Okay, now, what we'll be doing, and this isn't going to be too challenging on this compared to a few other things I've been making. Oh, goodness. But now, this is all stitched. It's on there. My elastic's in place. So, I will be turning it all out through this opening. And you notice I really backstitched on the edges of the opening to help them stay stronger. And you just have to kind of keep working your fabric inside out, and it actually it flips. It'll flip out. It'll come out. Here we go, pulling things from the inside, turning this all in the other way. There we go. It's coming. That's it. Okay. Now, here is my outside, all good to go. I'm going to tuck the corners down a little bit. And, yep, they'll end up popping out there nicely. Now, this thicker stuff, I definitely had to make sure I trimmed the corner. I didn't need to with the lining. Now, you see my lining now is, of course, here. I am going to turn it in, and it will be right side out, lining my little bag here. Ah, very nice. Tucks right into the corners. There we go. Okay, now what we're going to be doing then is taking this, which I'm going to very carefully turn under so it does not fray, and this, turning this under, lining it up very nicely, and I'll pin it. Here, let me get this. You know what I'm going to do? Before I do this, I'm going to iron all of this as open smoothly as I can. So, take you over to the iron. Okay, now I want to make sure that I iron this so it's really tucked down in there. And so I'm just going to get my edges. There we go. Iron. So that just is going to be a nice clean edge. A few little threads to trim. Those will be quick and easy. Oh, look, the seams lined up pretty nicely. This is going to be ironed down. And on this side, iron this down nicely. This is where the ironing really helps to establish how it's going to look, you know, and that the inside stays inside and the outside is outside. Okay, now, this is the really important part. This is going to be folded in. The blue is folded in. The outside is also folded over really nicely. This is going to be top stitched. There we go. And I'm going to iron this to help stabilize it when I am stitching it. I'll tuck this in really well. I really do not want that lining to fray. Tuck the threads in. There we go. Come on, get in there. There. Okay, I'm going to iron this down. All right, now I'll go over and I'll top stitch the whole thing. And we will be all set. Now, the ironing has really helped to stabilize and get that ready, but I'm going to also pin this so that as I go along, I know I'm keeping everything tucked in nicely. It is so easy to close up a hole that you've had to make to turn something right side out when you know that it's going to be nice to put a top stitch on it. It saves a lot of careful hand stitching. Wow, that pin did not want to go into that fabric. Oh, there we go. Gracious. Okay. And see all that pretty quilting showing up? Ah, that's nice. Okay, tuck this one in. Just like that. Beautiful. Try not to stab yourself with a pin. All right, now I'm going to just run a top stitch over the whole top of this, and it will be ready for a button. How fun. It's really been a fun project. Nice and cushy. Okay. Because, here, I'm just going to start this in here. Okay, line this up. There we go. I'm going to move my chair a little bit. Sorry, hon. There we go. All right, I'm going to... Oh, sorry. Put my needle down. That's always important, or else your thread pops out of your machine needle. You don't want to do that. Now, because this is going to show on the outside a little bit, I'm not going to be back stitching it. This is not a super support thing. This is just to help hold things together. Here we go. Okay. Ease it over that real thick spot. Good. This is a good strong machine. Okay, now I'm coming up to my first pin. So I'm going to make sure I'm holding these together really nicely so that I have a really nice look to the top of it. That's looking good. Okay, here we go. You see what I'm doing here? Trying to make sure you can see it. Tuck this all in. Stretch it nicely. There we go. Okay. The other pin comes out. Make sure this is all tucked just like it's supposed to be. This is the trickier part. Once this part's done, the rest of it's just simple top stitching. I'm doing 1/4" seam here. Now you see how I made sure that I wasn't going to have to be fussing with doing the putting it together with where the side seams are. I made sure that my opening was in between them, which has made this part considerably easier. Okay, pull this out so that it's going to have a nice, like I said, we want the inside on the inside and the outside on the outside. There we go. Alrighty, easy does it over that big thick seam. Good job. And I'm almost there. Bring this back around, and I'm coming up on the finish line here. Now this is also reinforcing the elastic just a little bit more. And that's nice too. Let me get these threads out of the way. I haven't trimmed them yet. Okay. Try to line that up. There we go. So that makes it as neat on the outside as we can. This is a really neat pattern, Dana. I'm very happy with it. All right, I have positioned my button and it's almost done sewing it on. I have one more little stitch and I'll tie it off. The button is now very securely attached. And I'm just going to knot my back here, bring this out, and loop it through. I'd like to do 2 of them because the button's going to have some pressure on it. Whoops, there's a little bit of the fabric there. There we go. I bring it through and just loop it. Okay, now I'm going to trim this off and let's try it out, and I will be all done. This has been a really fun project. That's it. There we go. Put this back over the pin cushion. Don't want us to find surprise needles. Okay, I put that on quite sturdily, and I'm going to pop it in, and I believe this is completely ready to go now. And once again, of course, I turned it on. Now, how about that? I've now got a very nice case for the iPad. It's got a pocket here for, my sister puts her earbuds in there, whatever you need to kind of tuck in here. You can see the beautiful colors of the quilting stitching on here. And I think it's appropriate for Bill or I both to carry. And I have enjoyed this project. I want to thank my sister for helping me to know about this pattern and helping me with it. And of course, once again, having beautiful fabrics here that I could use. So I just thought of this kind of when I was on my way here, and I thought it'd be fun, and we wanted to share some quilting with you. So I hope you've enjoyed it. If you like this video, please subscribe, and liking it really helps us too. And come here a second, Dana. I want us to get to say goodbye. And I can stand here.
You don't have to stand up.
Anyway,
Bye.
yeah, thank you, dear.
Yeah, I kind of like hers better than mine, but that's okay.
Well, this has sure been a neat project. So, all right, I will see you soon. Love you guys and bless you, and I'll see you later. From Maine.